I know this is the one you've been waiting for. This one is about George.
I'm gonna lose my mind, might not make it out this time. I'm choking on every breath. They tell you that life's not fair. Well, it's not heaven I'm looking for. I can't take this mess no more. If the water keeps rising high, I won't make it out alive. In over my head, in over my head. I've been locked up, knocked down, pushed around, scared as hell. I might be till I'm dead. In over my head, in over my head. I can't breathe, can't see how I'm ever gonna leave it. This hell that I'm living in over my head, in over my head. I've heard it all before, can't see the light no more. This fear's rising up in my chest, and night never brings me no rest. Oh, my throat's too sore to scream. Can't nobody wake me up from this dream. If the floodwaters don't recede, well, I swear they're gonna bury me.
Early in 2017, we bought this car and subsequently went on a couple of road trips. We realized that we really liked the idea, and since we didn't really want to stay where we're at and we don't really want to move somewhere we don't like, we decided to rather work on this as hard as we can to make it a home on four wheels. So 7 months and around 2,000 hours later, we now have this. So what is this? The base vehicle here is a 1996 Land Rover Discovery 1 on paper that at some point received a circa 1991 Range Rover Classic body on top. It is powered by a 300 TDI turbo diesel engine, and for all those who care, we have an R380 LT230 manual gearbox and transfer case behind it. Now, the poor thing turned out to be in way worse shape than we had hoped, which led to 7 months of first ground-up restoring and then converting and modifying it into the 4x4 apartment that you see here. From the outside, this thing might clearly look like an Overland build. Four-wheel drive, lifted suspension, the sheer amount of stuff that we have on the roof, and of course the fact that it is a Land Rover. Now, during 2017 and our first road trips in our initial setup in this, while we were suffering in the wet and cold, we realized that we would really like to have certain amenities that you would much rather find in a traditional camper van though. So around May last year, all we had was a very large to-do list and a very badly corroded vehicle that has way less space than we thought it would have. You know, way less than a Defender 110 and not even comparable to any van. But because we're both pretty stubborn and we just didn't have the cash to buy another car, we then started to work out all the modifications necessary to build it into this. Okay, let's get to it. On top of our Frontrunner roof rack, we have our also Frontrunner rooftop tent. The tent turned out to be the single biggest addition to our existing setup. It is not only a beautiful 360-degree panoramic bedroom, but more importantly, it allowed us to move the sleeping solution outside of the vehicle. Also of importance, we have an extra PVC water jerry can over there, as well as a regular jerry can storage, and this is a water tank, which has a hose attached, which runs all the way to the back of the roof rack and gives you running water underneath the tent and near the kitchen area. Speaking of the kitchen, we have the lower tailgate of the Range Rover doubling as our main work surface here, and changed the carpet here in favor of an acrylic plate so that you can, actually wipe the thing. And we also have our fridge on a custom-built drawer right in the shelving unit. And what shall I say? It's a fridge. You need one. We didn't have one before, and it's not a luxury. It's a necessity. Whoop. Yep. Closes just like that. One thing to mention here is we rarely cook on this surface. That is why we have... Now this is where our main cooking takes place. The base here is the Frontrunner spare tire grill, which you can just slide on and barely have to clean at all. And for the stove we use a Primus Gravity 3, a very bare bones camping setup with camping pots and pans. The real trick thing here is this. This is the Kelly kettle, and I think we have to do a whole separate episode just on the thing. This is purely for boiling water through a chimney system. If you've never heard of it, you should really check it out. Full well, it's probably the best thing we have in the car, bar none. Moving on. Cut. Welcome to the inside. The living room, the dining room, the office, the space where you are when you are not outside or inside of another building for some reason. And the core idea here comes from camper vans, actually. Most of those these days have turning front seats to enlarge the living area. And we thought to ourselves, why couldn't you do that in here? Well, the reason you don't do that in a car like this is because it's tremendously difficult to fit the rotating platform and still have enough space to actually maneuver the thing. With quite a lot of modifications, it was possible to fit these swivel seats in this car. We only had to change, the entire dashboard, relocate certain parts of the handbrake, change the seats, get a platform. But all in all, it was well worth it. Once we knew that the seats would work, we could then adapt the carpets and all of the rest of the stuff to it, as well as design a floor setup that would be both functional and pretty to look at. On the subject of the floor itself is built in such a way that it creates a completely flat surface all the way from the front to the back. We built this kink into it to allow the swivel to work, and we also get a nice spot for a basket in the middle, as well as a nice spot to hide our 230 volt outlet down here. Because the floor is completely flat all the way to the front, we now get a storage compartment all along the width of the vehicle where the rear footwell used to be. And down there we store not only tools and dirty shoes, but also our shower system. Okay, let me talk you through our hot shower setup real quick. On one end, you have this 12 volt pump. That is powered from the inside of the car, and you can put that in a jerry can or any other water source. It has a hose attached. The hose runs to this. This is a heat exchanger plumbed directly into the cooling system of the engine, so when that is hot and running, you get warm water circulating through it. Through these quick release fittings, you fit the hoses, and the cold water coming through that side gets heated up. And then on the other side, the hose runs all the way to this shower arm, which is just clicked into place on the roof rack, and you can shower. Full disclosure here, we didn't create this idea, we actually stole it from Phil over at the Sunny Side. And now, back to the studio. What you can't see is that this car has a dual battery system, like you would find it in almost any camper van. We located all of the core electronics underneath the passenger seat here, with a separate fuse box which powers nearly all the hidden electronics in the car. Speaking of which, so in most cars the storage solution would probably be the boring part. I don't think it is in this, because the shelves are very much an integral part of how the living space works. And that is also why they were extremely difficult to make and fit in the way that you see here, especially with our boat-inspired floor that would really give away any bit of crookedness in the thing. So how does it all work? One very important factor for us was to keep the car as clean as we could. So we tried our best to hide everything that would be weird or bolted on. So in this compartment here, we not only store electronics and, a knife and a lighter and our fire extinguisher, we also control every auxiliary electronic thing that is in the car. Under the passenger seat, we have a 350 watt power inverter, and we also have a plug-in for a foldable solar panel. All of that is controlled through a solar unit under the seat too. Then we have auxiliary LED lights in the car, in the sunroof, here in the back, on the tailgate and underneath the tent. And we also have USB ports hidden in the tent, in the glove box and back here. And we can monitor all of that through this panel here that you don't really see at all. It's a pretty complicated setup and it took us quite a while to figure out how to do it, and this is not the best solution, but it's very close. So, moving on. On top here we have my clothes, and I'm definitely not opening that. In the front we have kitchen utensils and plates and all that, and also glasses and pots and what you need. And down here is our outdoor compartment. Aside from this one up here, this down here is the most trick compartment that we have. It houses 2 chairs, the solar setup, a hammock, all of the camera gear, a first aid kit, and then, most importantly, we have the heater setup recessed into the floor. Down in that compartment that we custom fabricated, we have a planar diesel heater, which is plumbed directly into the main fuel tank. So unless we are completely running out of diesel, we have a heater solution. And that's also why we have the intake here and the exhaust over there, as well as an option to heat the tent through an exhaust on the top left here. The other side here is a little different, but the rough idea is the same. On top we have an open compartment for a laptop or a book. Below that we have the ladies' closet, which, despite the size of the flap, is actually a bigger compartment. In front of that we have the bathroom and other utensils, as well as like a card game or documents. And then down here, which is the biggest compartment that we have, is the food storage. This compartment also houses the drawer system for the fridge, but the fridge doesn't fill it completely, so behind that we have extra storage for tall things like vinegar, salt, and even my tripod. The thing is, guys, if you spend so much time on one project and you know every single detail in and out, you can talk about the miniature things in it forever. Like, I could talk half an hour just about these hinges and how we didn't want them but had to use them. And so I really hope this makes any sense whatsoever. We are blinded by the sheer amount of things that we did. Isn't this just the greatest chair in existence? Jokes aside, I hope you enjoyed this little view into our vehicle build, even though it is nowhere near complete in terms of what we did to it or what we have mounted on it, but I think it's a fairly good overview. For all of those that are really into Range Rovers, we will do a separate thing focusing just on what we did to this particular Range Rover to make it work. Yeah, so I think that's it.